We stand in the shadows of the ruins of a post-apocalyptic past. There has been many advanced civilizations before us, far more capable and far more connected to this beautiful world around us. We are the primitive ones, standing in these ruins of many advanced civilizations before us, not having the slightest clue of what was, what is, and what could have been. Research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. Dig up our past. Question everything, friends. They say that this temple in India was carved from the mountain, from the top down, all using no power tools, all by essentially hammer and chisel. And as impressive as this temple is, they tell us after that, it was buried and left forgotten until recent times when it was rediscovered. Clearly another sign of the mud flood from an advanced past wiped away. Question everything. There was just intricacy and beauty and nearly everything from the old world. Nowadays, things are made to be replaced, not held on to and cherished. We've been designed to become a materialistic society, not appreciating the simple things or the beauty that's all around us. And the past had us beat in that in many ways. There's been no truer statement made than they don't make it like they used to. Research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. Dig up our true past. Question everything, friends. Until next time. So a huge shout out to a supporter of this channel, Amy, for this incredible gift that just arrived in the mail the other day. New Orleans, a pictorial history. I've already skimmed through it a little bit here, and I have to say, folks, it is quite an amazing book. I certainly appreciate the gift, Amy. I will definitely treasure this always and spend a great amount of my free time the next coming weeks digging into this. And I'll let you folks here know some of the cool things I might have turned up from this book. Look at that architecture. If you guys are interested, again, it's the New Orleans, a pictorial history. Question everything, friends. Until next time. From the nearly intact log cabins found buried in Moscow to the stone statues and beyond, there has been many resets across this realm. The last one, burying us in several meters of mud, why it's commonly referred to as the mud flood. This is not cultural layers. Cultural layers do not bury log cabins in an instant. This was a realm-wide reset, intentionally left out of the history books, in an attempt to seize power and control by the elites that run things today. To know where we're going, we must first learn where we've been. Research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. Question everything, friends.
Southward Ho! the start of one of Admiral Byrd's 6 expeditions. Later, Byrd charts the course as the ship, her masts outlined against a scarred ice wall, nears the end of a 14,000-mile journey. The sea is strewn with loose, broken ice, but the sturdy ship crunches steadily on to her improvised berth against the ice barrier.
They pushed on, right up to the ice barrier.
Length we sighted that great natural phenomenon, the ice barrier. Liked it or not, he had to go alongside the Great Barrier.
Even for the sailor, for whom the sea is an old story, there is adventure in the oceans at the end of the world.
The rewriting of our history. Colorized. This is the World's Fair in Paris in the late 1800s, and they tell us it was with temporary material, with horse and buggy, made in just a few short years and torn down a few short months later. What an absolute travesty. I don't care what material you say they used. There's no way you could build such temporary structures of that immense quality. They look nearly 3D printed, far beyond their time. We couldn't even replicate this today. This was of a fallen empire. Question everything, friends.
Here on Madison Avenue, between East 91st and East 92nd Street. And there's some construction going on here, and I just thought it was really interesting that if you look down there, look in here. The windows are down below, way below street level, at least one level down. There's the alleyway back there, and a lot of streets have these alleyways, are sunken alleys below street level behind the building. So just thought that was interesting to note. You can see at least 3 or 4 windows there, 5 windows, depending on how you count. And what's really interesting to note is those windows there, they have bars in them. They have glass windows and bars. And so it's not just ventilation or anything. And this is just one more example of sunken buildings below street level.
This is what all the energy conglomerates can't compete with. The free and independent mind of individuals. And this is why we are a threat to the elites. This is Tesla's free energy generating technology, built in the modern times. Sadly, this technology will probably never make it to the mainstream, as so many other free energy devices, breakthroughs in transportation, often get silenced by the elite, because they truly don't care about the environment. They don't care about us. They only care about one thing and one thing only: profit, and how much they can milk out of us. But there is hope every time I see inventions like this, and they're becoming more and more common as people are becoming awake and free of the hold that they have over us. Question everything, friends. Until next time. There have been several giant details left out of our history books. Yet so many people refuse to question the truths that are hidden in plain sight right in front of them. Giants were very much real, and they walked this realm with us. The evidence can be found all around us. You just have to open your eyes and stop listening to the mainstream lies. It's hard for some to imagine. Why would they lie about giants? But the problem is, it's not just giants they've lied to us about. That is just one link, a small link in the much larger chain of lies that have completely erased our history, our true history. To find out where a lot of this cover-up began, research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. Question everything, friend.
All right, I'm going to have to say I'm absolutely astounded. I found another log that has the bark on it still. I never thought I would have found two. But that thing is fairly wide. I mean, I don't even have words for it. But if you follow along here, you can see, you say, well, that's rock. But if you look on top, there's the bark. And you follow it along. And folks, we're at 10 feet right here. Now there's another type of wood that's been remixed with this. There's the rest of the log that we originally started looking at. And look at this. That thing has got to come back here. It has got to be 25 or 30 feet. That, I am assuming, from the way that this other wood looks, is a log. That is a log. There's another one, and another. Look at the stumps. It's just amazing. And I haven't even scratched the surface of what I've seen out here today. Completely different spot, probably 30, 35 miles from where I was at riding initially. They're hanging out of the side of the freaking cliff.
Stan Laprati, Physical Education Director at La Sierra High School, has developed a program that assures every student of physical excellence. Exercise on the grip swing puts muscles on the least athletic. Extension push-ups are among the toughest of the drills. As an incentive to excel, the color of the shorts the boys wear is determined by their ratings on performance charts. Some requirements for top ratings are stricter than for Annapolis plebes. A lad who has mastered the pegboard will find a military obstacle course a snap. 200 schools across the country have adopted La Sierra's program of 15-minute daily competitive exercise. On a hot day, they wet down the wrestling mats for sliding. The boys at La Sierra are learning that it's not only good sense to get toughened up, it's fun.
They built a ship of death called the Titanic.
The sinking of the Titanic was a design of the Jesuit order to get rid of the opposition to the creation of a central bank in the United States.
And the men on the Titanic were opposed to a central bank. They had to die. Among those were John Jacob Astor, Isidor Straus, Benjamin Guggenheim, and a host of other millionaires who were opposed to a central bank in America. Therefore, they had to be taken out of the way, and they were on the Titanic.
The company building the ship was owned by J.P. Morgan, who was himself an agent of the Rothschilds family, the Rothschilds being the bankers for the Pope and the Vatican. The main Jesuit targets were brought on board. The captain of the ship was Edward John Smith. It appears from his actions that Captain Smith was a Jesuit coadjutor, that is, a Jesuit who has taken the oath but does not wear the robes. A coadjutor blends into the scenery and never looks like a Jesuit priest. It is a veteran sea captain, Edward Smith, who orders the ship to travel through an 80-square-mile ice field at full speed on a moonless night. There had been over 8 telegrams warning the captain of the danger.
He's warned 8 times, slow the ship down, slow the Titanic down, you're going too fast. Not once stopped. knew there was an iceberg field up ahead, knew that he should have slowed down, but didn't. And so you look and you say, how was it that this man could go headlong into a field of icebergs and not slow the ship down, not be more careful? The only conclusion you can draw is, as a coadjutor of the Jesuit order, right through the line, the chain of command, he was told, sink the ship.
That the Chinese zodiac calendar has 11 real animals and 1 fake? And furthermore, nearly our entire past in every continent depicting an elaborate fake as well. The concept of dinosaurs that has been sold to us in recent times is the only fake here. Our hidden past depicted exactly what they saw, time and time again, all across this realm. China even had an official dragon handler up until the 1700s. All the dinosaur bones we find are nothing more than giants and dragons, and you can't convince me otherwise. Question everything, friends. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Tesla said it best, and this is an example of those frequency and vibrations at work. Levitating water droplets with sound. There are many properties kept buried and hidden from us and this realm all around us. Many theorize that sound levitation had a hand in building the pyramids. It would certainly explain the unexplained mystery of how they were built to this day. Question everything, friends. Until next time. The 1893 World's Fair in Chicago, Illinois. And they tell us all of this took less than 2 years to complete. And even if that is baffling to believe, imagine tearing this all down in less than 6 months after start. They tell us they used wood and plywood. That's how they were able to make these beautiful, intricate buildings in less than 2 years. I don't care what material you used. You can use Legos. You're still not going to build this in 2 years. Just look at the inside of this building. Question everything, friends. Not only does our past build in such exquisite fashion, but they do so in almost identical ways all over this world. We were once connected, realm-wide, after the last reset, after the fall of Tartaria. That's when the controllers took over. And that's when all the grand works of the old world started to be wiped away, piece by piece, and dismissed as just an architectural style for the time, despite us being able to replicate nothing near as grand. Research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. Question it. You are exactly right. And here's an example of that super cold magnetic field at work. But I'm sure the powers that be that was working on this tech in the previous videos have already far surpassed the problem of propulsion. The controllers of this realm are easily 100 years ahead of what we have in the mainstream. So you can imagine what this technology looks like to them now. Question everything, friends. Until next time. Uh-oh. Looks like somebody flipped the switch a little bit early on the chemtrail spray. The sad part is, they have openly admitted to spraying our skies. And yet there are people that are just still, even with this video, aligned to what they're doing. Willfully so. Question everything, friends.
The moon is not what you think it is. It is definitely not a dusty rock like NASA tells us. Closed system or not.
About 50 pounds. Now, not quite the image of the stumbling fool attired in full armor who could hardly move, let alone get into the saddle of his horse, and where's my pulley or crane? Not quite. And it's obvious.
Which is not possible for a sword to cut through armor. It simply cannot happen.
For it to be truly effective, a knight's armor has to allow the freedom of movement to match the swiftness of a lesser armored opponent on the battlefield. And also let a knight climb or mount a steed quickly. But the design cannot compromise on its protective capabilities, and it has to be able to withstand what is perhaps the pinnacle of medieval metallurgy, the longsword.
The armor of the old world was anything but rigid and unflexible. And for those that follow this channel, this fact might not come as such a surprise, especially looking at some of my previous videos on these knights, utilizing their suits of armor like a Faraday cage, being able to electrify themselves and their weaponry, utilizing the power from the ether above. Yet, as impressive as that is, it almost doesn't compare to how flexible this armor is. It's really quite amazing. Definitely not looking like something made by a people of lesser means, though I'm not surprised at all. Research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. Question everything, friends. Does the Grand Canyon house ancient Egyptian pyramids and other remains? That's what American archaeologist John Wesley Powell and his guide discovered. Are these further proof of our once global connection? Question everything, friends. Until next time. So this is a panorama of the German building at the St. Louis World's Fair of 1904. The World's Fair, they say they built in under 2 years' time, only to be torn down 6 months later. I believe these World Fairs to be one of the most obvious lies of our past. These were not made by a people of lesser means with horse and buggy in less than 2 years using temporary material. I believe these to be the parade of the conquerors, celebrating their takeover of this realm, celebrating the fall of Tartaria. Research the mud flood and Tartaria. Dig up our true past, friends. Question everything. This realm was not occupied by just us, nor was it built for just us. The evidence of the giants that once coexisted with us can be found everywhere. From the false dinosaur bones to the many, many depictions of giants, the many newspaper articles of giants, and of course the accounts historically of giants from many civilizations and many religions. The evidence cannot be denied. Despite the great works the Smithsonian and other institutes have done to try and erase them from our history, the evidence can be found all around us. Question everything. Remember in school when they taught us about the Easter Island heads? Not the Easter Island bodies like you see here. And you still don't want to believe in a mud flood. So not only did they quarry these statues from the other side of the island, they dragged them all the way over there, carved them up, and then buried them. Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Or all these underground cities, buried buildings, or just completely forgotten buildings altogether. The mud flood is absolutely realm-wide, and you just have to open your eyes. You can find the evidence everywhere. History lost. Research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. Question everything, friends. So as you guys might have saw from my recent videos, this map from the Hindenburg, California, water, Brazil with water. Was this the last reset prior to what the lands looked like? Strange enough, looking into it, there was many maps depicting California as an island. I remember seeing a few of these maps with California like that in school, and they told us it was just because they didn't exactly know what it was back then. But I kind of find that hard to believe when you see how many civilizations depicted California exactly the same. Yet these maps would have so much detail as to include cities all along the island of California. And just so many maps. We already know about the lands lost in the North Pole, but here's a map nonetheless to refresh your memory. Do you think all these lands depicted almost identically by our ancestors, they were just misinformed? Or do you think there's more to this story that they're not telling us? These maps are definitely no coincidence. You can just look on Google Earth yourself and you can see the outline of where California was indeed used to be an island. But that was before the reset. Our history has been deliberately altered and rewritten. Research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. Question everything, friends. Until next time. Hey friends, check out my latest YouTube video, The Forgotten Flight of a Lost Past. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, just go to my profile, hit the button right there, and it'll take you right to my YouTube page. Question everything, friends. Until next time. Our fancy little bullet trains and Amtraks have nothing on the railroads of the hidden past. The amazing and impressive innovations of our past have all but been stifled now. We are dependent on our fossil fuel and overpriced vehicles to get around, especially in America. It's always funny to me as they talk about investing in high-speed railway, but the past already had that and much, much more. And not only that, look at how they traveled in luxury. These train cars left abandoned are all that's left of an impressive and illustrious past lost to us. Question everything, friends. The Vajra, depicted by so many ancient civilizations. Mainstream tells us it was nothing more than a ceremonial piece. But when you dig into the true past, you see the electric properties harnessed from the ether above was more than just used for free energy. And not just the coincidence that so many cultures and civilizations depicted this electric wielding device. They were also on the ends of bells, the same way, and subscribers of this channel might remember this similar fashion and design, and the bells they rounded up in the war, and they say that was for ammunition too. Question everything, friends. What we have been told about the process of fossilization and petrification has been grossly inaccurate. There are lakes in this realm that can turn organic matter into stone in a very short period, and that's just one example. The rocks were alive, and the evidence of this can be found all around our realm. We just need to open our eyes and see. Our history, our science, has all been rewritten, twisted, and perversed to fit an agenda. Research the mud fossils to begin to undig the truth. Question everything, friends.
Aaron Salter Jr. wore many hats in his life. Retired police officer, substitute teacher, But one of his true passions was science. He built a lab in his garage where he spent countless hours working to develop an engine that could run on water.
It's not running off of gas fuel? No, there's no gas fuel. There's no gas fuel.
Sadly, for all he was in life, the world is learning his story because of the courage he displayed doing his job, protecting
A reality. A local inventor has discovered a way, hear this, to use water to run your car.
It's a major breakthrough that will no doubt make motorists happy. And as Ralph Robinson explains, the Pentagon is also showing lots of interest in this project.
Water has always been considered a precious commodity, but Stan Meyer's invention may make it even more valuable. He has developed what's called a water fuel cell. It has taken the place of his old gas tank. The water fuel cell breaks down water molecules into oxygen and hydrogen. The hydrogen is used to run his dune buggy.
I don't care if you use rainwater, well water, city water, ocean water. If you don't have any fresh water, go ahead and use snow. If you don't have any snow available to you, then use salt water because there's no adverse effect to the fuel cell.
Meyer started working on this project 4 years ago. He's not a scientist. He isn't even a chemist. In fact, he never graduated from college. Myers was determined, he says, to design something to protect this country from oil embargoes.
And we have calculated that if we take the dune buggy from Los Angeles to New York, we would roughly use 22 gallons of water.
The Pentagon flew a lieutenant colonel in last week to look at Meyer's invention. There's talk of possibly using it in the Star Wars defense program and to run army tanks. Myers is currently perfecting a water fuel cell for cars. It will cost about $1,500. He says it won't need any maintenance, and you won't have to replace it. It'll be at least 2 years before the fuel system goes into mass production. The day it happens will be one the fuel industry hates, but it'll put a smile on the face of those who've had to say at one time or another, fill her up.
Turkmenistan, in between Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. And I just wanted to give you a quick overview and just all the geometric symbols and patterns reminiscent of the old world, but looking very much like a new world touch. Some people say this is a New World Order city built by the elites. I'm not sure, but it's darn impressive, whatever it is. Just look at all the geometric precision. And again, this city is just nearly empty. I urge anyone to check it out on Google Earth themselves. Because again, this video just cannot do it justice how impressive and beautiful this city is. And it would be in any country, let alone a country allegedly ruled by a dictator. And just look at all these trees. They're all just planted in such an even line. Get city ready for the next reset. It's looking very computer chip-like there. These are all just monuments and parks temporarily closed. I mean, just mind-boggling. And believe it or not, this is one of not only the least traveled countries in Asia, but in the world. It's the least traveled and least visited. That's because it's so expensive and such a long process to even go there on a tour. Even when you're there, it's a strictly guided and regulated tour. You're basically in a group, monitored and guided 24/7 when you're there. And cell service and many apps don't work there. And getting a visa, good luck. You basically have to know somebody, and again, a very long and tenuous process. Truly a beautiful city in a beautiful country, completely hidden from the mainstream. Question everything, friends. Turkmenistan and its capital city. A country in the Middle East bordering Iran and Kazakhstan. A country hidden in secrecy, where the city streets of this amazing capital that has free energy, antiqua technology in all their buildings, lay nearly completely abandoned. The mainstream explanation is it's just a country ruled by a secluded dictator. But I have never seen a more beautiful capital city in any first world country, let alone one ruled by a dictator. Despite all these structures being built for tourists, it's one of the least toured spots in the world. Perhaps it's the last vestige of the Tartarian Empire. We could have not only been the Jetsons, but we probably already were living like the Jetsons at one point in time. But that was before the last reset. Now we have a controlled history, a controlled narrative, and technology re-engineered to maximize profits for those select few elites that run it all. Research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. Question everything. The melted ruins of a hidden past. And if you think this is a castle built on top of a pile of rocks by primitive people, I got a sandbox in Florida to sell you. Question everything, friends. Our history deliberately altered, our technology deliberately halted. These are the effects of the world we've been brought into. And you can deny the fact that our history has been altered and our technology has deliberately been covered up. But the truth has been all around us, hidden in plain sight all along. It's the results of real good government-funded education, where we can look at all these images, all these videos compiled by so many truth seekers, and just dismiss it outright. But that's the purpose of my channel, to show you a glimpse into the true past, a past not obscured by agenda or politics, the pursuit of truth. Question everything. So officially this rare occurrence happens when the roots of trees tap into the groundwater beneath them. Though you have to wonder, when you look at some of these massive world trees that were completely cut down, and then all these floods, and the mud flood, and all of that, you have to wonder if something like this could be linked together with it. Perhaps this is where all the water came from those floods. Perhaps once those massive world trees were cut, they began expelling water from them at a rapid rate that flooded this realm until the water levels receded. Perhaps it could have been something completely different, though. I don't claim to know all the answers. But what I can do is encourage you to do your own research. Look for these intriguing and fascinating things about our realm, hidden in our past, hidden in even modern times. Share it with the world. The truth will prevail. Question everything, friends. Until next time. There is an awesome site I recommend to everybody interested in these star forts. Easily enough to remember, starforts.com. And it's not a complete list. I found many more in addition to it, but it's a crowdsourced type site that has collected and mapped all these star forts spread all across this realm. And you can click on each individual one of these pens and see a little description of the star fort, the official mainstream narrative behind it, etc. This is one of the coolest sites I found that has compiled at least a near complete list of them. Enjoy. Question everything, friends. Check out this star fort in Rosnay, France. A small little sleepy French town with a massive 2-mile-long star fort that is almost completely blurred out from above and completely blurred out from any street views. Officially, they say it's an old repurposed military base that's now houses some communications for submarines, but yeah, this is about as close as you can get to it zoomed in, and then it starts blurring completely out. And when you go to the street view here, you will see a completely blurred out base. They don't want you to see any part of that. Just a few antennae, that's about it. Yep, nothing to see here, people. Trust your governments. Question everything, friends. So if you are under the impression that these star forts are nothing more than just really good defensive fortifications, well, you'd be mistaken. You just have to look at the locations and the immense amount of these geometrically impressive and perfect designed forts, some located in the most remote parts of this realm, and many of them never seeing any actual combat. But I guess that makes sense when you don't build these in strategic locations. These are the remnants of a far grander civilization, left out of our history books. Research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. Question everything, friends.
What happens in the dark must come to the light. What you know about the petrified forest in Arizona? Oh my days. So check it. They're saying what caused the petrified forest is that it grew over 200 million years ago near waterways. During floods, water forced the trees to be pulled up from the ground. Over time, the wood from the trees became petrified. So let's take a closer look. Have you ever seen anything like that in your life? That looks more than petrified. That looks crystallized or turned into some type of marble. So let me ask you a question. If this has been naturally petrified, who cut the wood which has been turned into stone into small pieces? And you know what's funny? Everybody's looking in the front, but nobody's looking in the background at the giant tree stumps. Now I want you to compare these pictures. This is Arizona, and this is a mining site. Arizona, this is a mining site. And again, Arizona, and again, this is a mining site. So basically what I'm trying to say is sometime in the past, somebody cut down these trees with advanced technology which we do not understand and was mining for resources. The question is, who?
This man's got some truth if you haven't followed him already. Follow him.
Being white, brown, or black, but look at this family. According to Wikipedia, they arrived at least 15,000 years ago from Asia. According to Columbus, they painted themselves black and they are the color of the Canarians, neither black or white. But family, let's see what this book has to say about it, because this is the best research ever done. This book is talking about how the Native Americans used to be Moors and Berber Indians from India. This is how the Berbers look like. And this. But family, doesn't he look like a native Indian as we know it? Look. This man, Genghis Khan, with his military army, went into the Caribbean and America. Look what Google is saying. They affirm that Peru, Mexico, and other countries in America were conquered by the Mongols. You see this part of the Caribbean? Curacao, this is where I come from. And this whole lower part of the Caribbean and South America is considered as an Afro-Asian tribe. You see this family? This is the island where I come from, Curacao, and you can still find the old Tartaric Gothic designs. Family, does this mean that the Native Americans, also known as the Moors, an Islamic race, were black? Discover it yourself in this book. Link in bio, family.
I believe they got them where we got a lot of our technology that we still see today. The old world. In particular, when you look at stories of Vimana from India and many, many other accounts of flying objects in the old world. And then when you start comparing this technology to technology at present time, this flying and levitating technology is nothing new. Our hidden past has had many versions of this. We have to stop looking to the textbooks for these answers, because they're not going to tell us anything but the history that they want to tell you. And as for Vimana, it's not just a comparison of a few bits of modern technology to what we see from these structures, though I could spend a good long while going over all these similarities. And I mean, at some point you got to ask yourself, how many coincidences does it take for you to open your eyes? I mean, just look at these pillars compared to a gear in modern times. It's absolutely baffling. We just have to look at the accounts from the people in our past that we are able to put together. Just look what they depicted. Look what stories they all told. And look at the architecture that remains. And it wasn't just for flying these buildings that remain of the old world. You can clearly see the free energy generating designs on top of a lot of them that mimic the infrastructure we have today with electricity. That's not any coincidence either. But just take a look here in this compilation video I made earlier on why I can never walk past a stone pillar without trying to spin it again. There's a lot of our past out there, friends, hidden in plain sight. But don't just take my word for it, or anyone else's for that matter. Especially don't take at face value what we've been taught. You gotta do your own research, friend. But first you gotta realize that you've been deceived. Mostly all intentionally. But if you just want to look at all these images and videos as just coincidence, more power to you. Myself, I'm going to keep telling people to question everything, friends. Until next time. Yes, indeed we can. And we already have. And for quite some time. That is allegedly what Admiral Richard Byrd went down to Antarctica for originally. There was an alleged report of numerous German bases with experimental aircraft being reported in Antarctica. Byrd's squadron of warships, including an aircraft carrier, was met with heavy resistance and was essentially outgunned in every turn. And they were forced to limp back to safe harbor. An interesting note about what UFOs actually are is I find it strange that the last 50 years you have these flying disc-shaped objects. And then in recent times, as our technology seems to match with it, you now don't really see these anymore. You see orbs or things like that more than anything else. Perhaps they're not visitors from another planet. Question everything, friends.
This is a scaled-down model of the complete levitator. It's 3 U-cores with coils on and an aluminium plate that's going to float. Alright, if we switch on, put on the plate, it floats with about an inch gap and is stable in all directions. Okay? Now what we have made already on the scaled up full-size version is one of these units. So what you'll see is a large U-core with encapsulated coils wound on it. Well, this is a complete unit of one of the U-cores, and these are the pole pieces sticking through. At the moment, we've only got 6 coils per side. But this is blocked up with wood, and we do have room for another 9 coils, making 15 in all, if we should need them. Now we'll put on the aluminium plate. Okay. Now this aluminium sheet weighs about 100 pounds. At the moment, we've got it anchored on a rope at that end to take the weight, and a backstop just in the centre. The coils are going to take the weight at this end. All right, switch on. Now it's floating, as you see, but it isn't laterally stable. I can't quite take my hands off because it drifts sideways. This is because it isn't yet high enough. We're only operating at 200 volts. Now at that voltage, it's floating about 7 inches above the coils. Now this time we're going to do it at 400 volts with a higher lift, and I'd like you to notice the increase in lateral stability. Okay, switch on. Now I can practically take hands off. It's just on the point of becoming laterally stable. This time the supported height is 11 inches, which is halfway to our target.
On the contrary, there's been approximately around 600 deaths attributed to airships, crashing, exploding, being shot down, etc. And oftentimes, contrary to popular belief, they can take quite a beating before getting blown up. And it's important to note that of those approximately 600 fatalities, a majority of them were soldiers during wartime, or crewmen during wartime. But no, these things could take quite a beating, and were made that way. It's funny how the only thing we ever learned about airships in class is the Hindenburg, and we watched it blow up, and oh, so safe, and they all went boom. Bonus map from the lounge in the Hindenburg. Just look up all the airship disasters yourself. To me, it looks like a slow month from the airline industry. Question everything, friends. These are the ruins of an intentionally forgotten empire. These impressive structures, found abandoned and in ruins, scattered throughout the Russian countryside. Many of these buildings having the ether antennas still attached, harnessing the free energy from the skies above. How can we believe that these were just abandoned and forgotten by a people and scattered throughout the countryside? For those who follow this channel, know exactly what this is. The ruins of the Tartarian Empire, left forgotten